Welcome. For decades, if you thought about human resources, you probably pictured paperwork, policies, and maybe a whole lot of filing cabinets. Well, a quiet revolution has been happening. In this explainer, we're going to explore how technology is turning HR on its head, transforming it from a back-office support function into a strategic, data-driven powerhouse that can quite literally shape a company's future. Let's dive in.
To really get a sense of just how big this change is, just look at this slide. On the left, that's the old world of HR. Mountains of paper, decisions based on gut feelings, and most of the day spent on reactive administrative tasks. But on the right, that's the new reality. We're talking data-driven insights, automated workflows, and a laser-like focus on what really matters, the employee experience. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a complete redefinition of what HR brings to the table.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the why, that huge strategic shift. Then, we'll pop the hood and peek inside the digital toolkit to see the how. We'll follow an employee's journey to see all this in action, explore HR's new data superpower, and then we'll get real about the human challenges this tech creates. And finally, we'll look to the future.
Okay, first up, let's unpack this monumental shift. This is about so much more than just getting new software. It's about a fundamental change in HR's identity, from a support function tucked away in the back office to a strategic driver right there in the boardroom.
This timeline really tells the story perfectly. HR started out as a purely administrative, reactive function. Then, as businesses got more complex, it grew into a strategic partner, trying to line up people with company goals. But where we are now, that's the exciting part. We're in the age of the data-driven talent architect, using predictive insights not just to manage who we have, but to strategically build the workforce we're going to need tomorrow.
At the very heart of this change is something called human capital theory. Now, it's a fancy term for a really simple, powerful idea. Employees aren't just expenses, they're assets that grow in value. For years, this was just a theory, but technology is what makes it real. It gives us the tools to finally measure, manage, and maximize the value of all that human capital.
So we get the strategy. Now, let's look at the engine that's actually making it all happen. We're going to go under the hood and deconstruct the architecture of a modern HR technology system. Everything starts right here, with the core HR platform. The best way to think about it is as the central nervous system. It's the single source of truth for every piece of employee information. Personal details, pay history, job titles, it all lives here. This is the foundation that everything else is built on top of.
And plugging into that core, you have all these specialized modules. Talent management is all about growing your people, from hiring them to promoting them. Workforce management handles the nuts and bolts, who's working when and where. The analytics layer is the brain, turning all this raw data into actual intelligence. And crucially, you have integration interfaces, making sure HR talks to the rest of the business, like finance and operations.
Okay, I know all this talk about system architecture can feel a little abstract, so to make it concrete, let's follow the journey of a new employee, we'll call her Anya, and see how this technology shapes her experience from her very first click.
So Anya's journey starts before she even speaks to a human. An AI scans her resume and flags her as a strong fit. She then gets to complete a video interview on her own time, from her own home, and takes some automated skills tests. The system crunches all that data, flags her as a top candidate, and once the team agrees, a digital offer letter is zapped right over to her. It's fast, it's efficient, and it's all driven by data.
And once Anya is hired, the tech is there to help her grow. That old, dreaded annual review is replaced by continuous feedback on a digital platform. A special learning system, called an LXP, uses AI to suggest personalized training to help her build new skills. And her performance goals? They aren't just set and forgotten. They're tracked in real time, so everyone has constant visibility.
Anya's story is the perfect setup for our next point. The most profound change in HR isn't just about automation. It's about the shift from being reactive to being predictive, all thanks to a brand new superpower, data.
This is the analytics maturity model, and it's kind of like climbing a ladder. You start with descriptive analytics, just figuring out what happened. Then you move to diagnostic, understanding why it happened. But the real power, that comes at the top two levels. Predictive analytics, which forecasts what will happen, and prescriptive analytics, which recommends what you should do about it.
And here is where it gets really powerful. This chart shows a predictive model in action. It's analyzed tons of data and flagged the sales department with a 45% attrition risk. This is a game changer.
HR can stop being reactive. Instead of just doing exit interviews after someone leaves, they can now prescribe a solution. They can go to the sales leader with this data and recommend things like manager training or a compensation review to solve the problem before their best people even think about leaving.
Of course, a transformation this big isn't easy. Implementing these powerful tools brings up a whole bunch of risks, ethical questions, and some very human hurdles that you just can't ignore.
This chart highlights the biggest barriers. And while things like cost and data security are definitely real concerns, just look at the biggest slice of the pie: resistance to change. At 40%, the single biggest obstacle isn't the technology. It's getting people from leaders all the way to frontline employees to adapt their habits and embrace a totally new way of working.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? The message isn't that robots are coming to take over HR, it's that the role of an HR professional is changing, fast. The people who embrace this tech, who learn to speak the language of data, they're going to become more valuable than ever. And those who don't, well, they risk becoming obsolete.
And all this new power brings with it some immense ethical responsibility. First off, algorithmic bias. What if the AI screening resumes accidentally learned to favor candidates from certain backgrounds? Then, data privacy. How do you protect all that sensitive employee data? And there's employee surveillance. Where's the line between performance monitoring and an invasion of privacy? And maybe the toughest one, accountability. Who's responsible when an AI makes a promotion decision that nobody can even explain? These are the really tough questions that need strong, human-led answers.
Finally, let's look to the future. Because as fast as things have been changing, the evolution of HR technology is nowhere near done. So, what's on the horizon?
The HR leader of the future is basically a hybrid. They need the strategic insight of a consultant, the data literacy of an analyst, and the tech fluency of an IT expert. But just as important, they need to be an ethical leader and a master of change management, guiding the whole organization through this constant transformation.
This brings us to our final, really thought-provoking question. As all these systems get more and more intelligent, as AI makes increasingly complex decisions, what is the future of the human in human resources? Does it free people up for more meaningful, strategic work, or does that human touch risk getting lost somewhere in the code? It's something every single organization is going to have to grapple with. And that's all for our explainer on the digital transformation of HR. We've seen its journey from paperwork to predictive power and the profound challenges that still lie ahead. If you found this useful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks for watching.